everybody. Welcome to The World This Week. This week, a special look at some of the most interesting aspects of the Internet. Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now that Wikipedia is so huge and influential, how do you make sure it is accurate, for example, when it comes to political issues or other controversies?
Well, it's very important that we maintain a really strong community of people who are very passionate about quality and neutrality, so that they can police the site and make sure that everything that's coming in meets our standards.
I'm sure you had to struggle with many political initiatives to doctor terms on Wikipedia. Let's just take the Middle East, Israel versus Palestinians, and others.
Yeah, of course. I mean, all around the world, people take an interest in various controversies, and you know, there's often extensive dialogue and debate. We try to keep everything open and transparent, and we have a lot of rules about behavior in terms of being not insulting behavior, being kind to others, a real focus on the facts and reliable sources rather than just people posting whatever their random opinions are. If someone wants to post their opinions or their own analysis of something, they should go and start a blog. This is not what Wikipedia is about.
But when does free and free-willing information stop and distortion begins? How do you know?
Well, I think it really is about focusing on making sure that Wikipedia reflects what has been said in reliable sources. That is the most potent way of saying. If you see something in Wikipedia and it sounds incorrect or wrong, there should be a footnote. You should click the footnote and go and see what the original source had to say.
Did you ever consider using professional editors?
No, not really. I mean, it doesn't seem to be anything that's necessary. There's a lot of areas for improvement, but we think that the strongest way to improve Wikipedia is by investing in the software tools so that the editors have better ability to monitor, better ability to edit, a more open environment.
Okay, guess where I'm reading this from. In March 2008, Wales was accused by a former Wikimedia Foundation employee, Danny Wall, of misusing the foundation's funds for recreational purposes. You know where this is from?
Probably from Wikipedia.
Yes, exactly. So, didn't you wish it was not there?
Well, it's true that he said that, but I think if you keep reading, you'll see that it was adamantly denied and disproven. So it's just an old thing from the past, you know.
Yeah,
it's
but
part of history.
But you do wish it wasn't there, right?
No, it's fine. It's part of history. People say things that aren't true, so what?
What's next? Where else can this principle serve more people?
Well, I think the biggest thing looking forward for Wikipedia is the growth in the languages of the developing world. That's something we're really excited about as the next billion people come online. We want to have Wikipedia ready to welcome them so they can begin to build Wikipedia in their own language. What
will be the next big challenge then?
Well, I think one of the big challenges for us is making sure that the mobile experience for people coming in the developing world is very good. The most people who are coming on in the developing world will be coming on a mobile device, so obviously that's a real top priority.
Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Social networks have become such an influential part of human life that sometimes we need to stop and ask a few questions about what's going on there. And we do this with Karine Nahon, an associate professor in the Information School at the University of Washington and at IDC Herzliya. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Hi, Yaakov.
You're an expert on the virality of information. Why is it viral? It sounds like a disease.
Well, you're right, because the name virality comes from biology, but however, we have changed the term. So today when we're talking about virality of information, it's totally social. So it's very different than a virus, where we can't do anything. In fact, when we say that something becomes viral, that means that we, as humans, are very proactive. In fact, what we do is we distribute and we share that information. So it's not that frightening like a virus, a real virus in biology.
Right. Well, scientists know how viruses spread. How does information spread these days?
So before I tell you a little bit about how information spreads, let's define virality. So when we talk about information virality, we really talk about information that spreads really fast, and we can measure that to many people far away. And when we're talking about far away, we're talking about in terms of networks. We're talking about reaching out to very far networks, and in a social manner. That means that we pass it from one person to another. Now, how does that happen? Through two different forces. One, forces that come from top down, and we're talking about people like opinion leaders, like gatekeepers, who pass the information, and we tend to basically follow them. And the other type of force is bottom up, which is really a psychology of why we as humans share information. If we take those two kind of forces and take the structure of networks, that gives you actually the answer of what makes something goes viral. However, I have to say that if you told me, Karine, if I show you particular information, can you tell me if it's going to go viral or not? I will tell you no. We can know when something went viral, but we can't really predict if something will go viral just by looking at the content itself.
Yeah. Also, this is how falsehoods and lies get spread all over the place.
Correct, correct. In fact, the good thing about it is that when there is disinformation, it's quite easy to stop virality. So people would tend to know very fast that this is disinformation and would stop to produce it, to distribute, to share it. However, most of the information doesn't fall at the extreme side, right? We don't really know when something is really false or when something is really right. And this is where the gray lines are the difficult parts, where people continue to distribute information, where in fact it's an interpretation thing. Some of the information is incorrect or erroneous, and it's a problem. You're definitely right, because it's very hard to stop. In fact, it's almost impossible to stop information as it becomes viral.
Have you figured out what made social networks so popular? Is it people that like to show off? People feel lonely? People are lazy to go out and meet real people?
Well, first of all, it depends which social networks you're talking about. But let's talk about Facebook, because it's one of the most popular ones. It's really, you touched upon a little bit of the things, right? It's much more easier for us to sit down in front of our laptop and connect with so many people that we didn't see before. In fact, it's a magnificent tool to connect with people that you can't connect on a daily basis. For instance, think about people with disabilities. Think about people who are on a professional basis, like journalists. They can now connect in ways that they couldn't do before. However, and here comes the however, you're right. I mean, this comes on an expense of maybe face-to-face, communication, on meeting with groups, meeting with families, meeting with friends. So it's all a matter of balance, and people need to think about how they balance their life, versus like something in the middle, in the milk way, and not in the extreme sides of either being on the laptop, either being in real life. So this is where we're going to.
Well, social networks also bring out the evil in people. Why is that? Just because they are people?
We have evil things in life, in real life. What's interesting about virality in the internet is that it has the force to basically spread really quickly. So I'll just give an example. If you recall the beheading of the ISIS of James Foley, that was the first time. This spread, like I'm talking about seconds, to millions of people, the beheading of James Foley. And after that, YouTube and Google and Microsoft were saying, okay, now we're going to try to censor that information. But it's fighting, against forces that you can't fight, because when something becomes viral, there is no way to really stop that. So you're right. In a way, part of the strength of social networks is that you can't stop it. The strength of social networks is that it's social, but that's also the evil part. And the only way to fight against that is not to do more legislation, not to try to censor, because censor doesn't really help. It's all about the standards that societies will have to put in front of them, and to talk about that and educate. I know it sounds like, okay, education, that's not really a tool, but really technological tool would not help here. And we've seen that again and again and over and over.
Okay, I'll see you on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yaakov.
Lorenzo Franceschi Biccherai is a staff writer at Vice Motherboard in New York, where he covers hacking, information security, and digital rights. Thank you very much for joining us from New York.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How come everybody is surprised whenever there's a new hacking scandal? It's there all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you're right. I think it's a little bit of a cynical way of seeing things, but it's true. And the reality is that there will be more and more, just because, you know, as we connect more things and more people to the internet, there will be more things to break and hack into. So it's just a natural consequence of how the internet is spreading.
Who are the major forces that are meddling with our information? Is it China? Is it the NSA, governments, criminals?
A little bit of everyone, actually. China always gets all the attention, but I think that mostly is because they attack the United States, and in the United States there's a lot of press that writes about this stuff. So in a way, it's a natural consequences. I think that the United States does, the intelligence services of the United States, like the NSA, do as much spying as China, if not more. But they don't get the same attention, maybe because they're both a little bit better at hiding their tracks, and also because people don't pay too much attention. You know, maybe the Chinese press doesn't write about it as much as the U.S. press writes about the latest Chinese cyber attack. But there's more. There's more countries. Israel is actually a very important country in this world. The UK and all the other so-called Five Eyes. The Five Eyes are the five English-speaking countries that are allied with the NSA. So that would be the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And European countries too. You know, there have been reports of French intelligence spying online. I'm sure the Germans do it too. You know, basically whoever has the tools and the expertise and the money to do it is going to do it now, because that's how you do espionage these days. Mm-hmm. And criminals as well. Obviously, their goals are different. You know, they are after money. They're not after sensitive information. But they're there too. They're not as good as countries, but some of them are pretty good too.
Now, even if this is inevitable, with major hacks like the one with 21 million Americans, the United States government did not do its job to protect the information.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when we say it's inevitable, we shouldn't we should resign to the worst case scenario. I mean, in this case, as you say, it was clear that the Office of Personnel Management, the U.S. agency that was breached, was not doing its job right. All the data was, they were even, and they were warned, you know, they had been warned before, so it's not like they didn't see it coming. In the years past, investigations into their data practices revealed that they had a lot of flaws. So, for example, at a certain point, they didn't even know how many computers and servers they had connected to their network. So how can you secure your network if you don't even know what you have to secure? You know, it's just, you can think of it as a house in which you are not sure how many rooms you have. So you don't know, oh, did I close the windows in that room that I'm not sure I even have? So it's, you know, in that case, it's like really inexcusable. And it's also because this was not like your regular, you know, this wasn't my computer with like my vacation photos. These were like really sensitive data of millions of workers in the U.S. and some of them in very important positions inside the government. People that have, you know, can risk their lives if their real identities or their personal secrets go into the wrong hands.
So here's what's happening. On one hand, people are putting their lives and pictures on social networks and whatnot. On the other hand, they want privacy. Can this go together?
I mean, I think that's also a little bit of a cynical view, but I think that you have to be careful. Like, I think that it's at this point Facebook is not that new anymore, that people can say, oh, I didn't realize that this picture could end up, you know, posted somewhere. I mean, at this point, we have to realize that when we trust our data to other people, be it like our friends, you know, if I send a picture to my girlfriend or if I send a picture to a friend, and when I do that, I also trust my data to a third party that's between us. So, you know, could be Facebook, could be WhatsApp, could be Google. And these companies are, they're pretty good at protecting our data, but they're also, one day Google could be breached, and they could access people could access all our data. So I think that in a way we have to be a little bit mindful of what we say online, but also not be too paranoid. There's also, it's just like when you're in the street, right? You're in the street, you talk to your friend. It's possible that other people are listening to you, but maybe you're not being followed. Nobody's listening to you at that point. But you have to be a little mindful. So maybe you will not say some things that you would say maybe in the private space of a room. And I think that's we have to think of these services as the same way.
Lorenzo in New York, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And this has been The World This Week. We'll see you here next Sunday. Have a great week.